Hi everybody, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Peter Llewellyn. I run the various services, information resources, activities that you'll find at medcommsnetworking.com and the associated websites. You'll find information there for people who work in and around the global MedComms community, by which I mean people who work in medical communications, medical education, medical publishing, and the allied businesses. And importantly, we do lots of work for people who want to know more about MedComms and maybe start their career in MedComms. You'll find lots of information over at FirstMedCommsJob.com, specifically for that purpose, to help give insights into the business, provide signposts, and provide help and support to getting your first job. So along those lines, we talked to some of the agencies, and today we're talking to Link Health. It's great to have you guys. Thank you very much for joining us. And you're launching a new program specifically for entry-level staff. So this is your opportunity to tell us about it. Thank you very much. And again, to members of the audience, as I say, we'll have a presentation and then we're going to open this up to a Q&A. So have your questions ready. But can I hand over to Eve to kick us off? Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Peter. So firstly, thank you so much for inviting us here today. We are a relatively new newer agency than I think some of the agencies who we've seen on FirstMedCommsJob and your network. So we're big fans of your work and very excited to be here today. I think we're going to go through and tell you a little bit about Link Health Group, a little bit about the Link 360 program. But what we thought we would start off with is actually kind of a bit of an introduction to the team here and giving you a bit of a insight into our own roots into MedComms. So I'm guessing that everybody listening is very interested in getting into MedComms, wants to know a little bit more about it. So we've got a few people here with some slightly interesting roots and who have done a few different jobs within MedComms. So we thought we'd give you a bit of background into the team to start with. So I'm actually going to hand over to Ellie and ask Ellie to introduce herself and let you know how she has found herself where she is today.
Super, thank you, Eve. So I'm Eleanor Steele and I am the MedComms Mentor. I kind of stumbled into MedComms about 17 years ago. So I wanted to do a PhD in developmental genetics after my neuroscience degree. But during my undergraduate final year research project, I actually discovered that using microscopes gave me terrible migraines. So I had to rethink that a bit. It just wasn't going to work. I realized that I'd always really enjoyed the writing side of my degree more than maybe the actual science. So I decided to try and find a job that would combine writing and science. So I got my first job in the industry without really having any idea what MedComms was about, but luckily I found that it suited me. So I worked my way up the medical writing side of the industry, and I've worked in a variety of different agencies. I've led the scientific teams, so the medical writers and editors at several different companies, but I actually went freelance a few years ago, and since the start of 2020, I've been running my own business, providing training and mentoring for medical writers of all career stages. So that means that I run training sessions for different MedComms agencies, sometimes within a training program, sometimes as a one-off or as a particular series. And I'm currently working with Link Health Group on the Link 360 program. So I'm going to be working to provide training on some of the medical writing aspects of MedComms within the program, but I'm also working with the team on the design of the whole curriculum. And I'm working with internal team members within Link Health Group who are going to be delivering other parts of the training so that there's a sort of a consistent experience across the program for people within Link 360. But there's also a development opportunity for the current team members within Link Health Group. Okay, so over to Susan, I think.
Thanks, Ellie. Hi, I'm Susan and I'm a senior medical writer here at Link. And my story about joining MedComms is not a straightforward one necessarily. So I did my PhD in pharmacology. I then did my postdoc. I worked as a research scientist for a few years. And then after all this time working in a lab, I realized that actually it wasn't quite as fast paced as I expected. I found it rather repetitive. I didn't manage to find the cure to cancer, unfortunately. And I decided that working in science, but actually communicating about science was much more fun than the practical work in the lab. So about 15 years ago, I began my career in MedComms as a medical writer. And not long after starting as a writer, it became evident that although I enjoyed writing about the science, and I still do, I also enjoyed the project management side of things, the financial aspects of the job. And so I began working in a sort of hybrid scientific client services role as a senior scientific project manager. And that was great because I really feel that, you know, that role gave me a good grounding in my career and has led me to where I am today, really. So yeah, I began working in MedComms about 15 years ago. And over that time, I've worked across numerous various therapy areas. I've had a great deal of experience in working in all sorts of projects, manuscripts, reviews, abstracts, posters, strategic publication planning, training manuals, and huge variety of different digital projects. I've also traveled a lot, obviously pre-pandemic, to provide live on-site support at various congresses and meetings, and more recently leading sort of virtual advisory boards and workshops. And I guess my main role as a writer is developing the scientific content across loads of different therapy areas and projects here at Link, and working with the client to offer strategic scientific input into their projects. So when I speak again to you a little bit later on, I will tell you sort of more about my day-to-day job, and I can hand across now to Hannah.
Hi everyone, my name's Hannah and I'm an account director in the client services team here at Link. So I was actually fortunate enough to be recruited into MedComms. In fact, I was actually standing in my university students' union bar at the time. I remember it vividly. I had actually just completed a degree in events management, a year of which I had spent working in pharmaceutical meetings and events. So really it was my sort of logistics management and faculty liaison skills which stood me in good stead for an entry-level position as an account executive into MedComms. So now I've been in the industry for 11 years, I think. So like Susan, during that time, I've worked across publications accounts, meetings and events, Congress activities. I did a stint in healthcare advertising and marketing, and also worked on digital initiatives and educational platforms. So really, really varied and all walks of life there. My role is to provide strategic oversight of my accounts and also to support my colleagues across both the client services and the scientific services team to ensure that we're able to meet client objectives, deadlines, and deliver projects ultimately within scope and budget. So I will talk to you later about what we do in the client services team in a bit more detail. Nice to meet you all.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Hannah, and thank you everybody for sharing that. I'll jump on the bandwagon a little bit and tell you my own kind of route into MedComms. So my name is Eve Guichard. I'm the general manager at Link Medical, one of the divisions at Link Health Group. And I've got a Bachelor of Science degree in biology. And when I graduated, I wasn't sure whether to do a PhD or to try and get into book editing and publishing, which was something I was particularly interested in. And I remember kind of looking at lots of different jobs and thinking, you know, what am I going to go and do? And I was applying for PhDs and I was applying for kind of different roles. And I came across a publishing role. And actually my first role out of university was doing editing and production editing within biomedical publishing. Worked there for a little while, went off traveling for a little bit, came back and sought another editing role, which happened to be in a medical communications agency, not having any understanding of what medical communications was at all. I was a good editor and kind of started in that role and kind of blagged my way through the interview, not really knowing very much about MedComms, but knowing a lot about editing and publishing. And kind of found myself in a very big network at the time as a medical editor, and kind of worked my way up through the editorial department and got to the point when I wanted to move on and kind of had the option of client service or scientific service. So found myself as a writer once again, kind of just ended up there. You know, I think the thing about writing which appealed to me was exactly as kind of particular Susan's outlined, is that being able to learn about new diseases and new therapies and the variety of that, and using my background. But for me, being able to do it in actually kind of a corporate commercial environment as well, which I found really suited me. The more senior I got, I found that I really enjoyed the strategic side of things. So working with clients on how can we achieve our objective, what's the best mechanism, what's the best route of kind of communication and things like that. But then also I found that I really like the commercial side of things and the numbers and the business model and all of that, that sort of things. So I ended up as head of scientific service for Link Health Group for about 4 years, and then took on the general manager role of one of our MedComms divisions. So I'd say that I've probably done editorial, client service and scientific service to some degree, and kind of worked across all of them. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to share my screen very quickly, and we're going to start off taking you through a bit of background into Link Health Group before we then go on to talk a little bit more closely about the Link 360. So you've already met everybody. So I'm going to do a bit of background into the company. Ellie's going to take you through the Link 360, and then Hannah and Susan are going to explore a little bit more of those specific roles, both of which are going to be explored through the 360 program. So Link Health Group, we're an independent healthcare communications network. We work with pharmaceutical and biotech clients throughout the product life cycle, so from discovery, development and commercialization of new therapies. And we provide the full range of healthcare communications support within that. We are and have always been an entirely virtual organisation. So we have team members based in the UK and the US, and that's kind of all over. We say kind of from Manchester to New York, Tennessee to Twickenham, sort of all over the UK and US geographic regions. So we have a number of individual links that make up Link Health Group, including capabilities in medical and scientific communications, which we'll focus on today, consulting and strategy, insight generation, and most recently and quite excitingly, advertising and promotion as well, which is our Link Republica arm. We work very, very closely across all of those divisions. Although we kind of present them as separate divisions and separate brands, there is a bit of overlap and a bit of kind of crosswork in terms of how we work. Link Medical and Link Container, the two divisions on the other side of your screen there, are the medical communications links who people would be working with as part of the Link 360 program. And I think to really understand a little bit more about who we are as Link Health Group, it's quite useful to kind of think back to where we have come from, why we're here. So we formed in 2014 as a small consultancy, and since then have grown into a full communications network. But I really think that the principles which we founded the business on still stand today. So really principles of wanting to do things a little bit differently, of years of agency and industry experience where we were thinking, why does it need to be done like this? Why do we need to kind of conform to this traditional way of doing things? It's kind of particularly apparent when you look at the labels we tend to give agencies. So you're the pubs people, you're the PR people, you're the advertising people. And at Link, the way in which we try to work is to not kind of conform to those isolated solutions. And so that's kind of the ethos which has grown into these divisions that have these capabilities, but which truly work together in order to actually harness the ability of each of those disciplines. And with that, that's why we work by our always innovative, never derivative strapline. I'd say that the number one way in which we execute on that and kind of execute and live that approach is through our people. Our people are our business. Our team members come from not just global healthcare networks like myself and some of the team on the phone today, but also from in-house within pharmaceutical agencies, which kind of really gives us a bit of added insight, a bit of added depth to our team as well. Our team are not headcount, they're not resource, they're not capacity, but they really are the heart and soul of our business. We aim to find the best in the industry across all of those disciplines which I've outlined, and then we really shape our business around them. We look for like-minded people, people who are engaged, motivated, curious, and people who don't just want to settle for what has gone before. So people who are not just excellent at what they do, but people who really think like us as well. This approach, I think, seems to be working. We've grown really well over the past few years, thanks to continued strong client partnerships, so really evidencing that it's working well. And then also expansion through some really successful new business wins, as more people hear about us and more people want to work with us or for us. Which is why it's kind of particularly exciting to be here today to talk about Link 360, where we're looking for new starters in the industry. We're looking for people who are going to think a little bit like us as well, and who are looking to kind of join somewhere where we can give them an idea of the breadth of working within that healthcare comms and medcoms space, and who would be looking to work with our amazing team. Just before I hand over to Ellie, I just want to touch a little bit on the different medcoms aspects of what we do, and to give you an idea of the type of things which we apply that thinking and that ethos to, and which you might be involved on a daily basis. So in particular, the medical and container divisions, providing the full range of support to clients across med ed and psychoms. Covering the entire product life cycle, as I said, and that's really no matter what type of channel. So we go all the way from publications through to digital apps, websites, and things like that. I'm not going to talk too much more about that because I think Hannah and Susan will probably go into that in a bit more detail, but I will hand over to Ellie to introduce the Link 360 program.
Super. Thank you. Okay, so what is Link 360? The first thing you need to know is that it is a proper job. It's a permanent position within Link Health Group. But within the first 6 months, there's a structured training program with immersion into one of the client account teams within Link Health Group. So everyone joining Link 360 will start off as a MedComms Executive, which is a hybrid role encompassing elements of medical writing, client services, and editorial tasks, so that you get a 360-degree view of what life in a MedComms agency is really like. So within the program, everyone will have support from the people involved in delivering Link 360. So that means dedicated training sessions, mentoring, feedback, briefing and reviewing your work so that you can understand what you need to do and whether you have done the right thing when you're working. And you'll also have networking opportunities across the whole of Link Health Group so that you can see what life is like in other parts of the business too. As Link Health Group is a virtual company with everybody working remotely, you'll be working remotely too. We understand, though, that there's huge value in in-person learning. So there will be regular face-to-face training during the first 6 months of the programme, as long as COVID allows, obviously. Plus, there'll be opportunities to have team meetings with your account team, depending on which team you're working in. And after that initial 6-month period, you will be specialising into one of the 3 career pathways, so medical writing, client services, or editorial. And we'll work with you really closely throughout that period to make sure that you're heading in the right direction, that you are ready to make that transition at the end of the programme, and that it's not going to be a surprise from either side, sort of what you would be doing and how you'll be working, so that you know you're going to be making the right step and getting your career off to the right trajectory. Okay, can I have the next slide, please, Eve? So who are we looking for? Okay, everyone within Link 360 is going to need a life sciences degree of some kind, and we're really looking for people with a 2-1 or above. Further degrees, so masters or PhDs, maybe medical qualifications, they're all welcome, but they're not essential. That initial undergraduate degree is the kind of basic starting point. We're also really interested to hear from people who have got relevant work experience. So whether that's postdoc contracts, working in scientific publishing like Eve did, or other kinds of related roles, we'd really be interested in hearing from you too. We're obviously interested in those qualifications, but we're interested in more than that though. We're interested in you as a person. That's what's really going to seal the deal, to make sure that you're right for the program. So we're looking for people with curiosity, that thirst for learning, who are going to come into the program and use it to craft their own career, grasping the opportunities within Link 360 with both hands. You've got to be the kind of person who can work from home, obviously, because that's how things work at Link Health Group. But MedComms is a team sport, so collaborating with others is also really crucial. There's always an element of travel within MedComms, so being able to do some of that travel when things are able to be in person and live, that's an important thing. And we're planning regular face-to-face days as part of the programme. And for this initial cohort in 2022, this will be based in London. But if you're watching this as a replay sometime in the future, do check on the Link Health Group website, because we are planning to run Link 360 in other locations and in other ways in the future. So please do check to see what's happening when you're watching this. Okay, so that's a little bit about how Link 360 works and how you can apply. So I'm going to hand over now to Susan to tell us a little bit more about working in scientific services.
Thanks, Ellie. So scientific services are really responsible for creating scientific content for our clients. As Eve previously mentioned, there's numerous types of materials that we produce. And in order to do that, there's a number of steps which allows us to communicate about cool science. So the first step is really to determine who our audience is and what it is that we're trying to communicate with them. So the audience could be expert healthcare professionals, or it could be internally with our client, or it might be patients, and then every type of audience in between those. So once we know who the audience is, we need to know what we're going to deliver. So the materials we developed are delivered in different formats via different media. Different audiences will need different types of content or materials. And each media and format type requires different type of writing styles. And this means that as writers, we really need to make sure that we have varied writing skills to make sure that we're writing in the best possible way. And then finally, we need to make sure that we are delivering the content in a precise, correct, and scientifically accurate way. And so we work very closely with our editorial team to implement quality control processes. And this might include spelling and grammar checks, data checks, consistency across previous materials. And this allows us to make sure that we are delivering the highest standards of written work to our clients. So on top of all that, on top of the excellent writing and quality control processes, we also work hard to ensure that we've got a deep scientific understanding of the client's product and therapy area, so we can make sure that we provide high-level media, high-level medical and scientific strategic input into all the materials that we develop. So basically, in a nutshell, working in scientific services calls for knowledge in both writing and science. And we need to make sure that we combine our creative talent with the demand of research, scientific understanding, and also attention to detail. And it's important to be well organised, a communicative team player, and be able to form strong relationships with other departments at Link. So I'll just very quickly tell you about a couple of projects that I have worked on to give you an idea of what it is we do. So over my career in MedComms, I've worked on a variety of different projects. And one particularly innovative project that was a lot of fun to work on was developing a set of interactive case studies. So this was going to be clinical case studies and how to deliver this in an interactive way. So the brief was to deliver clinical case studies and depicting specific patients with unusual or atypical manifestations of a rare disease via an interactive format. So I worked with the digital team, and we decided what we could use digitally to deliver this interactive format. And we decided that digital e-panels would fulfill this element. So basically like great big iPhones that we could, with touch screens and everything. So it was great fun to work on. The first step was to deliver the content. And the first step to do this was creating a template for the case studies. So I developed this in PowerPoint. I worked closely with the client to ensure that the template covered the aspects that were needed. I worked with the digital team to make sure that the template would take the expected content and this would transition easily into the interactive e-panels. I then had to liaise with the expert physicians to develop their clinical case studies in order to populate the template. Once the experts and the client approved the content, I continued working with our digital team to ensure that the content transitioned well into the digital format. And that involved a number of steps: copy editing to make sure that the content was correct, sort of double checking that, you know, superscripts were superscript and everything was absolutely correct. And it also involved testing the e-panels to make sure that the interactivity worked as it should. And it was great. During the meeting, the experts loved using the e-panels, and we received such positive feedback. And the client was really happy. The interactive element was well received. We felt that it enhanced the participant engagement a lot. It made the discussions more lively, and it actually allowed the experts to communicate about their cases in a non-linear way, rather than having to flip back sort of 30 slides. It meant that they could just jump to the CT scan or whatever it was they wanted to talk about. So that was that project. Another project which I really enjoyed working on was working on a patient video. So it's always really nice working with the physicians, but it's also really nice to see how that translates down to the patient. So this video was used as part of an industry satellite symposia that was delivered earlier this year. The process involved conducting meetings with the client and the patient to work out what type of questions the patient would be able to answer, which type of questions the client needed answers to. And it meant that I could work out trying to develop a script with the patient so that she was comfortable being able to record the video. So once the script was finalized, we held a virtual meeting where, a bit like this via Zoom, where the patient and I recorded the interview based on the script. And then afterwards, I worked again with the digital team to finalize the video, add in any post-production edits, such as taking out the bit where I was talking and adding in the patient's name and things like that. And both the client and the patient were extremely happy, and I really felt that it was an incredibly rewarding experience to be able to give the patient a voice. So overall, I'd say one of the best things about the job is the varied aspect of it and the fact that no 2 days are ever the same. So for the Link 360 participants joining us, your mentor in scientific services would really work very closely with you to offer personal support and guidance on a day-to-day basis. We'd work to ensure that you received full detailed briefs with all the information you need to begin work. And we'd be able to answer any questions along the way. We'd also review your work, provide useful constructive feedback. And as mentioned, the real key to delivering high quality projects is that we work as a team here at Link. And it means that your mentor in scientific services won't just be supporting you in creating the content, but we'll also be working with you to help you build really strong relationships with the other teams at Link, in particularly client services, who we cannot work without. And with that, I shall hand you over to Hannah, who will tell you a little bit more about that.
Lovely, thanks Susan. So what do we in client services do? Well, I know I've touched on it already in terms of when we were introducing, but ultimately we're responsible for facilitating teamwork in order to ensure that our clients get what they need. So that's on budget and on time. So to do that, we challenge the brief, we anticipate potential challenges and work with our team to proactively find solutions before they arise. We ensure that our team members are engaged and motivated to collaborate, and to do that we provide them with the tools that they need to get the job done. So that might be by booking relevant resource such as editorial or creative, developing robust timelines, or we might be helping to review, do some review management through the client platforms such as Viva or DataVision. We really build and maintain those long-lasting relationships with our internal teams and our clients through strong project and financial management. And above all, what we aim to do is to exceed our client expectations so that they just keep on coming back for more. And in terms of the sort of people we are, obviously this is coming from my mouth, but we as a people, we're very varied in terms of our backgrounds. We come from all walks of life. As you heard, I don't actually have a scientific background myself, but most of us will have some sort of life sciences degree. We are highly organised, we're proactive and confident communicators, and we're intuitive. So we're often able or need to predict a client's reaction to the unexpected. And we're obviously diplomatic in the way that we handle those communications as well. We're flexible, we excel at multitasking, and we're quick to learn as there's multiple types of media that we need to work across. So I mentioned earlier that might be different review platforms. So we use DataVision for publications, for example, or VivaVault for reviewing medical and commercial materials. There's also a training need in all of those items as well. But also just internal tools like Smartsheets that we use for timeline creation. And, you know, Susan mentioned this already, but our work is hugely diverse. We're responsible for a wide variety of projects when you're working in client services. In any given day, I could be working on slide decks, meeting materials, or even digital initiatives such as interactive PDFs. More recently, I've done some podcasts and webinar videos as well. And Eve touched on this in her introduction, but I'd say that is one of the many, many great things that, you know, Link embodies, really. We don't box ourselves in. And because of that, we deliver the communications that best match our clients' needs. And that is really what makes our work so varied. So like Susan, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a flavour of the breadth of experience you get in client services. So just wanted to cover off a couple of the things I've done in the last week alone. So I have provided a strategic review of a playbook. So that's aimed at medical sales reps, and it tells them how to best engage healthcare professionals with an educational website in rare diseases. And as part of my review of that, I suggested updates that should be made to align with the client's current objectives. I attended a Zoom call in which we recorded a virtual webinar with 2 experts in rare diseases, and that was the result of months of liaison with the experts, slide development, management of multiple rounds of client reviews, and also copyright permission sourcing. I led a client status call to run through current progress and next steps on a 200+ slide training deck that we've been developing in myelofibrosis. I've created budgets for 3 sets of Congress abstracts and on-site attendance, and reviewed creative design options to update an existing website. So it's really, really varied. And of course, the icing on the cake, Peter, is that I'm participating as a panel member for this webinar as well. So very, 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 very role here. And then, you know, we've touched on this already with Susan saying, you know, that we're all involved in the Link 360 programme. So just like you would in scientific services, all Link 360 participants will also receive mentoring from someone in the client services team. We'll provide that personal support and guidance, as well as the obvious sort of job related support. We will take you under our wing, we'll make you one of the family, we will brief you, we will review your work, and we'll obviously give you all the constructive feedback or pointers that you need to do your job and to do your job excellently. We'll involve you in our internal and client status calls, because that's really important. You will be immersed in a live account, as we said. So it's important that you understand the wider context of the projects and the tasks that you're working on, so that you can understand how that all fits together into the sort of the wider MedComms window. And so, of course, we will also provide you with any formal training sessions around any specific tools or processes that we use in the client services team as well. And ultimately, as a team, we want you to get as much out of the Link 360 program as you can, so that at the end of these 6 months, when you choose which area to specialise in, that you can just walk into that role with confidence. So on that note, I will hand over to Ellie and she can explain the Link 360 application process.
Super. Thank you very much, Hannah. Right, I hope you're all fired up and ready to start applying. All of the details about the programme are captured in a brochure that you can download from the Link Health Group website. So that is linkhealthgroup.com. There is a Link 360 section of that website, which includes the brochure and some of the details about the programme and who we're looking for. And you can also use the website to get a bit of a feel for the rest of Link Health Group, obviously. So within the brochure, we have an application form, which covers off some of the kind of basic details that you would need to give for applying for any job. But we also want you to create a short video, so up to about 2 minutes, explaining why you want to join Link Health Group so that we can hear this from you in your own words, in your own style. We've also got a little test. So it's a series of short assignments, and this is also included within the brochure. These assignments will give you a taste of the kind of work that we do at Link Health Group across the 3 career pathways, so medical writing, client services, and editorial. We'll mark these assignments when you send them back in and use these scores to help decide who we're going to offer places to. But we'll also use them to see where your strengths are and where you might need a bit more support during the programme if you join Link 360. And everybody who applies and submits these assignments to us, we will give you some feedback so that even if you don't get a place within Link 360, you'll have some support so that you can get your MedComms career off to a flying start. So for the current cohort, we need all of these, so the application form, the short video and the assignments to be completed and sent back by the closing date, which is the 31st of January 2022. But obviously, if you're watching this in the future, check the website for any current deadlines that are applicable. Once we've received those, we will mark them and we will use this content to choose the people who we want to invite for an interview day. And for the current cohort, that's going to be happening in late February 2022. So during this interview day, you will have an opportunity to meet some of the team in person, plus some of the other applicants to Link 360. We will have some more information about exactly what's going to be happening and how it's going to work. There will be some group activities for you to do with some of the other applicants, and there will be opportunities for you to ask questions and really get to know whether this is the right place for you to start your MedComms career. So once we've had the interview day, we will then be selecting the cohort who we want to invite to join Link 360, and that will be happening through March, and the start date for the current cohort is going to be the 25th of April 2022. Obviously, again, future cohorts, check the website and all the details for any future cohorts will be listed there. So that is an overview of how you can apply to join Link 360. But if you do have any questions or if there's anything that doesn't make sense, then you can contact us on our email address, which is link360@linkhealthgroup.com. That's all one word for both. link360@linkhealthgroup.com, and we will get back to you with any answers to any questions that you might have. So that's it from our presentation. So thank you very much for listening to that, and we are now ready and waiting to answer any questions that you might have.
Excellent. Okay, thanks, guys. That was all very, very comprehensive. So thanks. We have only got a couple of minutes, but let's see whether we've got any comments that can come in from the audience. Just a couple of things from my point of view. I mean, it was very, very comprehensive, and you ticked off a lot of the questions that I thought might come up. So that might just influence what happens in the next couple of minutes. Just give us and I'm sorry if I missed it, but I don't think I did. Just give us a flavour, Eve. You know, how big a company are you? I know you said USA and UK, but just give us a sense of size of numbers and how many people are you looking to bring in on a program like Link 360?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I joined about 4 years ago, there were 12 people, which was a tiny, tiny organization. We're now up to about 40, which probably sounds small to some people, but those of us who were here when there were 12 sounds massive. So growing really nicely and sustainably in that time. We're looking for probably 5 or 6 people to join us next year. But we are hoping that, that this is something which will kind of run year on year as a way of growing the business sustainably kind of into the future. So relatively small cohorts so that we can give you the support which you'll need coming into this industry fresh.
No, that's fine. It's just useful to have a bit of a
context,
a sense of it, because there's such a wide variety of sizes. Let's just deal with one of the questions that came in while you were talking, actually. But I know you talked about this, but let's just clarify it. Yeah. So you work in the UK and the US. You're currently looking to recruit people into 360 in the UK. But there's a question coming from Toronto, Canada. Do you work with people in Canada specifically, or beyond the UK, US?
So we currently employ people in the US and the UK. That's where our companies are. That's where we need to hire people from a legal perspective. And this initial cohort for 2022 is going to be in the UK, but moving forwards, there will likely be intake in the US as well.
Okay. And to state the obvious, you're recruiting for other positions other than entry level, but it's UK and US basically.
We are, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Okay, there's a couple of very specific questions. I'll skip over that if you don't mind. But we've got a question coming in specifically for Susan about project management qualifications. So let's pick up on that, because I think you talked about how you were doing project management points in your
yeah, absolutely.
Journey.
So I have lots of qualifications, but project management is not an official project management that I have. So it was kind of like on the job learning. So I have a life sciences degree and a PhD, biochemistry and pharmacology. And it was basically when I joined as a medical writer, I just really enjoyed it. Was, I guess, just in my personality. Control freak? No, that's not the right thing to say. I just really enjoy managing things, and I enjoy the timelines and, communicating if we don't meet the timelines. So I think it was just a case of that it really fitted my personality, and it wasn't actually something that I noticed. It was more when I began that that the people I work with noticed and transitioned me into that project role. So I don't actually have any specific qualifications as such
in project management. But Hannah, I was going to just pull you in on that one, Hannah, because that might be relevant to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to jump in there as well, just to reassure you that I also don't have any official project management qualifications. It's one of those things that you very much learn on the job. I mean, I did say my degree was in event management, which is heavily project management in its nature. So no official qualifications, just related experience.
Okay. There's a quick practical questions come in. If I can just keep it a little bit general, but in terms of flexibility of timelines and so on. I mean, I know this. The whole point of today is you're launching a program, so to some extent it's going to evolve anyway, and people need to bear that in mind if they're looking at the video and so on and so forth. But the principle is that you're looking to bring a cohort in at a particular time of year, train them up, and then maybe bring another cohort in. Yeah. So there's going to be some requirement for timelines to sort of synchronize, as it were. Is that right? You're not going to be just bringing somebody in at any time. Is that right? Am I understanding correctly?
Yeah, so at this point, we are looking for that kind of March cohort. Certainly in the future, do keep an eye out on different cohorts. And I would say, we're a super flexible organization. Contact us when you're looking, and we'll and we may have different vacancies available. So I would never let that put you off. I wouldn't look at something and see a deadline. I would contact anyway, and say, I'm super keen, and we would see what we had at the time.
Is the intention, to ask a blunt question, is the intention at any rate for anybody who starts at an entry level in Link Health to come into this 360 program? Is that the basic idea, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the past we have brought people in on entry-level positions and we've not had all of this available, and we've done it and it's been really successful. I've got, you know, we've got 2 team members who are doing brilliantly, who have kind of come in and we've been able to give them that head start. So this is really formalizing it. So you know, whether we do bring people in outside of cohorts, but we've got all of this structure in place to then help them succeed. Absolutely. And I think it's the benefit of being that smaller, flexible, nimble agency that we can respond to that and actually kind of decide to move forward with whichever way is going to work best for us and applicants at the time. So
okay. And things will evolve, and we'll keep saying that. Rhiannon's just asked a question which may be worth covering off. Is there scope for part-time working at entry-level position? Do you see that? So
again, we are super flexible. We do have a number of people who work within part-time hours. I think everybody on the phone at one point or another has done some form of part-time within Link. It really depends on the availability and the type of part-time which you're talking about. You know, I think that there is a need to really get your head down and get immersed, you know, in kind of a certain number of hours over a week, but how that is spread out over the week is always up for discussion, as I think everybody on the phone could attest to, myself included.
Okay, I think there's a big question from MedCom's point of view overall. I think we're all heading, or we have been heading, we are heading the flexible working direction that encompasses part-time and so on. But it's really difficult. I think it's important that these people understand what we're wrestling with at an entry level, because it's important that you're immersed in the business. And to be frank, full-time, immersed in the team and all the rest of it is always going to be best. But there's a lot of variations on this starting to come through. Sorry, it looked like you're going to say something, Eve.
Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, I think for me, the key is to always remember that MedComms is not a 9-to-5 job. You know, we have clients, they are very, very demanding clients, to be completely honest. So the way that we approach it is to be kind of flexible with our flexible working, so that we can give people the flexibility which they need in terms of all of these guys on the phone need elements of flexibility. I need elements of flexibility, but to be able to do that in a way that also delivers and responds to a client and things like that. So and I think actually for me that's kind of the way in which flexible working is going and needs to go, so that we get as kind of individuals what we need, so that we can support our families and spend time with our families, and you know, or you can go paragliding on your day off, which some of our team do, you know, but whilst also being a client service industry with in you know, a very high pressure pharmaceutical environment, which it is.
Okay, and it's worth making the point which you've made, but let's just make this point. You started as a virtual company, you're still a virtual company, you're staying as a virtual company, and in a business that's gone very flexibly and all the rest of it, you know, there are still a whole range of different scenarios that will suit people differently, but you are virtual and you're staying with virtual, which in itself is interesting, or has been interesting over the last couple of years.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, so we started as virtual. It means that we can get the best of the talent, which, you know, may want to live in the middle of Wales. It may want, you know, kind of wherever anybody wants to live, so that you know, it's about getting access to the talent wherever that may be. We have no intention of starting offices anytime soon. It works for us. It works brilliantly, and I think it works because we are all virtual, and I think that that's why it works.
Excellent. Okay, we are a little over time. I'm going to call a halt to the recording there, if you don't mind, but I think that was a very comprehensive overview of what you're doing. I'm delighted that you come online to launch the program, as it were, with us, so that's great. If people are watching this video in a few months' time, go to the website, have a look at what the latest information is. To round off today, I'm just going to say very clearly that I know you're all very happy for people to contact you via LinkedIn. So please, I keep saying this now, these webinars are about making connections and things. You know, please, if you're in the audience watching the video, please contact these guys. They're very happy to hear from you. It's also worth me just putting the plug in. If you're interested in all this MedComms-y stuff, come to medcomsnetworking.com. You'll find lots of things going on. Specifically, if you're interested in coming to the business, have a look at FirstMedCommsJob.com, where you'll find all sorts of information, signposts and help, hopefully. I personally am always very happy to hear from anybody, and I will do what I can to help. So huge thank you to everybody. Those of you in the audience today, please don't rush away. We've got a few minutes and there's a couple of specific questions we can pick off. But can I just ask the panel to give us all a wave, say goodbye. Everybody stay safe in these crazy times. Bye bye then.